Hello everyone, my name is Vincent Gutierrez and I'm the librarian at CAU. Today I'm going to be talking about in-text citations for APA 7th edition. This covers paraphrases, summaries, and direct quotes. You may be wondering, what are in-text citations? In-text citations are short phrases that refer the reader to your reference page in your papers. They point the reader to the source without having to list all the details in text, such as the journal issue number or the publisher or the URL. That high-level information is usually on the reference page, so the reader can easily follow your source. As an example, you can sort of think of them functioning like hyperlinks on an online article. When you read an article online, these sometimes lead the reader to more information or a different source that backs up their claim. And this is what in-text citations do. They allow the reader to find more info about a claim or information that you have in your writing. What do in-text citations do? Information has value. This concept is why we have such things such as paywalls on news articles and why higher education has a cost. As students, it's easy to think that you are just a consumer of information, but you also create information daily. As we create information, we stand on the shoulders of those before us. While for most things in life we aren't required to credit where we got the info, in academic writing, however, we must acknowledge and credit where we received the information. Doing so fosters scholarly communication, which is essential to research and study. Another practical thing that they do is that it differentiates your own ideas from another person's ideas. Next, in-text citations lend credibility to you as an academic writer, either helping your argument, backing it up, or providing background on your subject. The last and probably most well-known reason is that it helps you avoid plagiarism, which is the direct or indirect use of someone else's ideas and passing them off as your own. While this can be done purposefully, you have to be careful to make sure that you cite, as you can still be liable for plagiarism even if it's on accident. Plagiarism is unethical and goes against the school's standard of academic integrity and honesty. It can lead to serious academic consequences such as disqualification of the assignment or failure of the course or even the entire program. What do in-text citations look like? APA uses an author year format for in-text citation. Both of these methods here on the screen are correct. So we have the author and the year, the author and the year. And I'll show you, go more in depth in both of these. One common question is if you must use them for everything. After all, everything we've learned is based on something we've heard, read, learned, or studied. And while the APA handbook doesn't lay out exactly what must be cited, it does specify that common knowledge does not have to be cited. One example I like to use is that you can say Mount Everest is the tallest mountain in the world, but according to the National Ocean Service 2022, Mount Chimborazo in Ecuador is the farthest from the center of the Earth and the closest to space. And Mauna Kea in Hawaii is the tallest mountain on Earth from base to peak. Though this may be common knowledge to some of you, it's not as well known, and if the reader wishes to follow through, they can find that information in my references page at the end of the presentation. Generally, if you've read the information or used something in your readings or your papers, you should cite it. If you aren't sure, cite it anyway. As stated before, APA uses an author date citation system. Your citation must include the author and year. And this author and year correspond to the reference page entry, just like a URL in a hyperlink. If the address isn't completely correct, you get a broken link. There are two variations, narrative and parenthetical. Narrative citations have a lead-in phrase or a starting phrase, while parenthetical citations have the author and year within parentheses at the end of the information. Direct quotes have a slight variation in that they have a locator. And now I'm going to show you those examples for paraphrases. Then I'll show you direct quote citations. Left side will be the citation and right side will be the reference page entries, and you'll get a clear idea of how each is supposed to look and relate to each other. So here we have three examples of narrative in-text citations. We have the starting phrase or the lead-in phrase and the author name and the year in parentheses. Then you go on with the information. And here we have authors, the year, and the starting phrase. And here again, the starting phrase and the authors and the year, and then the information following that. I've color-coded each citation in these examples so it matches your reference page entries, but you won't do that in your papers. Just make sure that you know that this corresponds to this corresponds to this one, this corresponds to this one. And like I said before, don't color-code it in your papers. Also, take note of how the authors appear here and how multiple authors appear here, and the use of et al. And I'll go over that a little later. And here's the same info cited parenthetically. Notice the wording has changed to accommodate not having a starting phrase. For the citation, the author and the year appear at the end, separated by a comma. They go within the period. Authors, the year, within the period, and multiple authors, a year, and the period. And notice how the and has been replaced with the ampersands corresponding to this citation. I'll show you a table that breaks down how authors and multiple authors are supposed to show up in your papers based on APA conventions, and this table will be linked in the description below. Et al. Is a common phrase found in scholarly writing. It means and others in Latin, and it is used when you have more than two authors. There's a joke that asks how you would feel if you were a scientist or a researcher and you appeared as et al. In your paper. But moving on, within the text of your papers, you'll follow these basic guidelines for referencing authors in your in-text citations. Essentially, whether it's narrative or parenthetical, within the text of your paper, you'll use et al. If there are more than two authors. How those appear in text is on the table to the right. Notice the use of the ampersands here and not here in the narrative citation. And when you have an organization such as the National Institute of Mental Health, and you put an acronym in brackets and the year, and then in subsequent citations, you can just put the acronym in the year. And this is similar to what you'll do with the FAA. A link to this table will be provided in the description of the video. When a source has no indicator of when it was written, you use the phrase ND. This is all lowercase. It means no date. Here's some examples of that used narratively. So the author and the no date. And in your parenthetical citation, the author and the no date. And this is how it will appear in your reference entry. One common question is if you must cite the same source over and over, and the general rule for APA 7th edition is that overcitation can cause confusion and make things difficult for the reader, but it should include citation for every parenthetical citation. For narrative, if you're using according to or author one also suggests, then you don't need to put the year in there, but for parenthetical you will need to. The main thing is to avoid confusion and overbearing your reader with citations. Of course, there's no penalization against adding a citation in just in case. And typically, for narrative, you do not have to repeat the year if they appear in a single paragraph consecutively. So if you have another source in between that citation, then you'll have to repeat the whole first citation. Now on to direct quotes. These, like I said at the beginning, slightly differ in that there's a need to show accurately where you got the information. This is called the locator. As you can see, here's the parenthetical citation format on the last line, author, year, and the locator. You can include these for your paraphrases and summaries if it's large work, and if you'd like to provide it, but it's not necessary. So locators are an indicator of where the information appears in the work for a direct quote. For textual works, ebooks, some academic journal articles, you'll use P and the page number. For range of pages, you'll use the double P and page range. And I'll show you how this fits in with your information shortly. For online sources without page number, you can use para and the paragraph number, or you can use the section name, or you can use the section name and the paragraph number. You're free to use whichever method best helps the reader find a direct quote if there's no page number. I'm not going to go into this much for videos, but you use the timestamp for when the information begins if you're citing a video. And next I'll show you the examples. Same layout as before with the examples on the left and the reference page entry on the right. Top two are if the source has pages, and the bottom three are if the source doesn't have pages. I bolded these for emphasis and color-coded them. But once again, you won't do this for your paper. You don't bold it. You don't use different colors. So here's your author, the year, and the locator, page 21. Authors, the year, and the page range of where the quote appears, pages 2 and 3. And here's the online source with no page numbers, the authors, the year, paragraph number 3, authors, the year, the section name, and the author's year, and the section name and the paragraph number. Notice the comma, the period at the end of all these. Parenthetical moves it all to the end, similar to parenthetical paraphrases and summaries, just with the locator at the end. So author, year, page number, page range, paragraph number, the section, and the section and paragraph number. And once again, you won't bold these in your paper, nor will you use colors. And do you have to cite the same source over and over for direct quotes? For this frequently asked question, you do need to include for every parenthetical citation. However, for narrative, you do not have to repeat the year, just must include the author name in there and the page number at the end of the information. So long as the citation occurs within a single paragraph and it's consecutive, you should be okay. If another author is used in between those two, then you'll have to essentially reset and redo the first citation. There are some special rules to direct quotes. Quotations over 40 words have a slightly different format. Personal communications such as an interview also have a slightly different phrase within the in-text citation. I'll include links to these special rules in the description. For more information or for more examples, visit apastyle.org. This site was created by the American Psychological Association and is a great authoritative source for in-text citations. Another source is a virtual library link within Canvas. APA is covered in the research and writing section on that site, and there's other hyperlinks that will take you there. There you'll find information on in-text citation and APA style in general. If you have more trouble, you can always reach out to the librarian. The virtual library will have the librarian's contact information on there. Thank you for listening, and once again, please reach out to the librarian if you need more assistance or you have more questions.